Dirtbag Baseball Talk, everybody. Kirk along with Mike Medici today. And Mike is a MLB amateur scout, and he's the founder of a business called Scout School 360. And Mike and I got to know each other through a mutual friend, Cliff Terracuso, as most of you know, about a year ago. It's just over a year ago, Mike, that you started the Scout School 360. So, you know what? It's great to have you back. Great to have you talking and sharing your insight and wisdom. And that's what we're going to talk about today, everybody, is this two-part series. One, kind of the scouting world that Mike lives in and the changes he's seen over the 12 years that he's been doing it. And also really what it is, Scout School 360, his intention behind it, how you can get involved in it if you're interested, and the purpose for it. So, Mike, great to have you with us, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. Good to be back. Like you said, it's been a while. Yeah. Going back, unfortunately, last time I think we were really on here, it was during mass shutdown.
Yep.
So good to be back and a little bit more normalcy going on in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and you know, Dirtbag Baseball Talk, our concept behind it was obviously for the amateur players, parents, coaches out there to always keep helping you educate you and empower you in your baseball journeys. And, so it's really exciting to be able to reach out to Mike again and get his knowledge and years of experience on that scouting side. And he's been gracious enough to, I guess, come on, we joke around about it off the air, I guess kind of be the resident dirtbag scout. And so what we're thinking on that way is come on maybe once a month. And we'd like, Mike and I would both like you all to, if you have questions that you would like to know about the scouting world as a player, as a parent, a coach, send them in to us, Kirk at dirtbagbaseballnation.com, and I will send them on to Mike, or we'll be talking about them. It's kind of like a mailbag, like Mike had brought up. And you just send in your questions to us about scouting interests that you have or questions that you have as a player and stuff like that. And we will talk about them and we'll discuss them and stuff like that on Dirtbag Baseball Talk here. So let's get back into it, Mike. And, you know, 12 years, it goes pretty quick. I'm sure it does. And just for everybody to know, you were a player at one point in time too.
I was, and you're right. It really does go fast, and it's amazing when I think back. Just like, really, has it been 12 years? When guys are like, "When did you start?" I was 25. You're like, "Man, you got in at 25," and you know the Jays were gracious enough to take a chance on a young guy that really didn't know anything. I knew nothing. There was scout school went on with the scouting bureau. It always happened in the fall, back when it was around, and unfortunately, I got hired in December. So I didn't have an opportunity to go. I mean, they literally, I think back, like they gave me a list, a computer, a radar gun. They moved me from Buffalo to Chicago. I knew nothing and just said, all right, go to work, go figure it out. You know, and I'm thankful for that. I learned on the go. But, you know, sometimes I think during the pandemic, it was actually really nice. I hate to say that it was really nice, but it allowed you to take a step back and kind of look at it. And I would go through my old list. I'd look at, you know, over those 12 years, because I have a spreadsheet for every single draft that I've been a part of. And I have all the names listed that I had turned in. I have all the names that were drafted in that class. And I like to look back and see where they're at. You know, unfortunately, most of them are out of the game, released or retired, you know, but there are some that are still going, whether it's still in the minor leagues or in the big leagues. And you look at like, all right, where did I have them? What did I think that they were? What did I project them to be? You know, where are they right now? And then you kind of reflect back, like, what did I think about that player? Why was I high? Why was I low? You know, maybe I was dead on. You know, I wish that was the case for most of them, but it's not, you know. And I think as a scout, that's how you get better. Is you got to look back because it is a process in our game. You're looking 3 to 5 years out. You know, you cannot judge just on that current draft because they haven't played yet. Give them a chance to go out. You know, I talk to NFL guys and they say, you know, we project out 2 years. 2 years, we want them to be at their peak. In the NBA, I haven't asked that exact question, but I would imagine something very similar. We want them to be impactful within 2 to 3 years, especially because they're taking such younger players. In some cases, they want them to be guys right off the bat as soon as they step on the court in year one. You know, so that's been the one nice thing, is it allowed me to step back, look, reflect, and kind of gather a lot of thoughts going into this year. You know, a very different year, tons of players because so many came back. We had a 5-round draft last year. So the depth is it's unbelievable. It's nothing like I've ever seen before, just how many guys are actually eligible this year. So, but yeah, that's been the one nice thing, be able to look back, reflect, and gather some thoughts as you move forward into this year.
Yeah, there's no question on it. And what are a couple of the biggest things that you've seen in baseball that have evolved over your 12 years of doing? Is it strictly on the data side, or even a little bit more than that? I don't know.
When I started, the big thing we really pushed for was understanding the makeup. The makeup was huge. And that was kind of the philosophy with the Jays when we kind of outshrunk all the areas. And he wanted you to know the players on a very intimate level. You know, and I look back to that first draft in 2010, you know, you could say we killed it. You know, if you really look at the guys the Jays took, obviously Aaron Sanchez, Noah Syndergaard stand out, picks 34 and 38. But you can go up and down that draft. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I think a lot of it was we knew the makeup, we knew the players. I'm not saying we necessarily beat people on those two guys, but in a way, the area guys that had those two players knew them so well. And we knew we could get them in a really good spot. We scouted them like crazy. That was an area of emphasis, that not just the evaluation, but the makeup. And that continued on. Then you started getting into more of the video. The video became more important. You started to see, all right, we want video on every single player. Anytime you see a player, take some video and study it more, you look at it. And then you started to get into the statistics. So, right, you know, year 5, 6, 7, then you started seeing the evolution of statistics, running down stat guys, performers, you know, and then you really saw the birth of the analytics side, becoming a driving force. And it still is. I think some teams really rely heavily on that. I think the ones that do it really well are that really blend the two, because I think there's things the analytics show that maybe don't come up in the scouting report. There's things in the scouting report maybe don't come up that show up in the analytics side. You know, so I think a really good blend of the two. But now, you know, it's video, it's analytics, and it's taken a whole nother level between, you know, the TrackMan. You got these high-speed cameras, the Edgetronic. I mean, it's the technology. It's crazy just how much is out there. I mean, you could spend a ton of money. You could really dive into so many different areas. But at the end of the day, I look at it the same way. It's a huge puzzle, and it's just a piece. Every one of those areas is a piece. So when I first started, it was, you know, knowing the makeup, the evaluation, and the video aspect, and some statistics. And now it's a bigger puzzle is all it is to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And just so everybody understands, so Mike's region right now, presently, I guess, would be under the Midwest, I guess, Mike?
Yep.
So, you know, you're Indiana, you're Chicago, you're Michigan, Wisconsin, and down a little bit. And so, and I bring that up because I think it's relative to what you just mentioned, Mike, and how, you know, really still daunting your job is as well. Because, again, with the evolution of TrackMan and Rapsodo and all that type of stuff or whatever, and then of course Baseball Club coming down the pipe and stuff like that and growing leaps and bounds, you have to go into stadiums that are big enough, maybe your Ball States, maybe Notre Dame's, that have those data collection cameras on site, so it makes your job a little easier that day than having the radar gun out necessarily or whatever. But then you go to your high school levels and you're right back to old school scouting. Your radar gun, you're the eye test, you're, you know, the whole package. So again, is it still nice to go back to, even with having that access to the technology in certain stadiums, it's fun, makes the job maybe a little lighter. Is it still fun to just do the old school scouting?
Yeah. You know, I'll give you an example. Like I went to a game last week and it was where they filmed the League of Their Own. And it was like, I love those old school stadiums, just the feel on the stadium. It looks the same as it did when they filmed the movie. But yeah, like just sitting up I felt like I was back in Cooperstown, being a New Yorker, being at Doubleday Field. It just gives you a different type of feeling. You're watching a high school game, and there's no data to be collected. It's strictly going off your eye. What do you see? And They play later in the day, so you get full on BP, you get full on in and out, something you don't necessarily get at all the high schools, especially in more of the city type areas where they're just trying to get through traffic to get to the game. But when you get to smaller areas, they do it. It's almost like it's a production. The whole town shows up, and it's a neat atmosphere. I think that's one of the most fun things, is going to some of these smaller areas, and you walk in and you tell them, what you're there for, and they kind of step back. Oh, wow. And people take pictures of you as you stand behind home plate with your guns, radar guns up. Because they're just not used to seeing that. So, I absolutely love going to the high school games. Are fun, especially when you get to the smaller remote areas, for that. But, when you go to some of the big stadiums, now you look up and you see we got TrackMan. Okay, good. All right. Now I'm mental note. I know I can resort back. I can look back. I can get data. There's going to be a bigger pool of information on this type of player. And, in a way, you don't want to shy away from those programs. You still got to see them, but there's a lot more information out there than the guy down the road that's at a D2 that you really like. And you probably got to see him maybe a little bit more because there just is not as much information on. So you can use it strategically in a way too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you touched on a couple of really good points there, Mike. Makeup and, the small time schools and stuff like that. And again, we want to give you as a couple of little takeaways from this episode, everybody, without going too deep, obviously, because we could talk endless hours on stuff like that with scouting. But Mike wanted to make sure that you were able to take away a couple of just key points that I think him definitely, but the majority of scouts out there would look for, especially with the amateur players and stuff like that. And then again, like we said, send your questions into us, send your inquiries into us so we can answer them on future episodes. So, but definitely one was that makeup. That thing called makeup. Talk to them about that, Mike, why it means so much to you.
Yeah, makeup is one of the most important things for me. It's really your character. And I quote Chris Ballard here, the GM of the Colts, because he literally told this to me, and I stick with it. Is talent is your ceiling. That's where that's your peak. That's what you can get to. And your character, which is your makeup, is your floor. The higher your floor, the better chance you are getting to your ceiling. And that's how they draft here. I think if you look at the Colts in the last, I think he's had 4 drafts, they talk about how many all-pro guys and pro bowlers and contributors up and down the draft. And it's really been because they've hit on makeup. Yes, there's talent, but they're looking for guys with ceiling and character at the same time. So, and we dig, and I talk to players, you talk to coaches, you talk to trainers. For me, it's people with non-vested interests in players. So I don't really necessarily want to talk to the recruiting coordinator because he recruited you. And in most cases, about 90% of the time, they're going to give you something positive because they recruited you. Like I recruited before. I get it. You want to push your players. Give me the strength guy. Give me the trainer who has to deal with you away from the field when you're cutting corners, you're not getting your work in. Like they're going to tell me because they don't get talked to a whole lot. So when they do, it's really important for them to be honest and straightforward. So you do come back and talk to them. Those guys have been absolutely the best for me. And, I think people forget, we look at what do you do off the field? What you do on the field is a byproduct of what you do off the field. It's inevitable. Like, if you don't work off the field, eventually it's going to show up on the field. Maybe not right away, but at some point in time, like it is going to show up. Character always shows up at some point in time. It may not be right away. It may not be in the minor leagues. It may show up in the big leagues, but at some point it does show up. And I say it's important. Like, yes, there's plenty of exceptions to the rule. There's guys that are straight turds that are great big leaguers, but I do think the guys that are consistent over time, year in, year out, constantly putting up numbers, having success, are pretty good makeup guys. And I think those are the two you want to build teams around.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I love the correlation concept that you got from the Colts and that really, I think that's pretty attainable for everybody to understand. That really makes sense. And I'm sure you can go down a list of players in your own mind, sitting there thinking about them right now and going, oh my God, yeah, Mike's right about that. That guy reached that level because his character was holding him back. It really was at the end of the day. So, and it was great to lead into, because I think another thing that gets lost for sure. I was glad to hear you talk about that off field, but even the pregame and stuff like that. I know I try to talk to players so much and that, and having a scout on there is awesome to be able to validate, but you brought it up. And the fact that your eyes are on them, you'd love being able to not just go to the old time feeling of those small stadiums, the double days, those things where you get BP plus a game. But I think most players and even coaches out there don't even think about what a scout is looking for. It's pregame. They're looking at the game. But no, you're not. You're showing up early. You're hiding behind the tree maybe, or or whatever else. Take it through one story of those if you can.
I think a lot of it is even on the pro side, showing up. And the one thing on the pro side is when you do minor league coverage. I'm not talking the big leagues, the big leagues side. But those guys, if it's 7 o'clock game, they're on the field about 3 o'clock. You can show up at 3 and be a fly on the wall, and they don't know who you are, who you're with. I mean, I walk in just regular polo. There's nothing on me that shows why I'm there. And you can sit up in a corner of the bleachers and just watch. And you get so much out of that early work, pre-work, who's working, who's not, who's paying attention in base running, who's really working at his craft. So that, catching her down the line, you get an opportunity to see them, what their kind of pre-game lead-up type work is. And it's really no different at the bigger colleges. Just watching how guys, what is their plan in the cage? Are they just swinging the swing? Are they actually working on something? So-and-so is down in the bullpen. It's not his day to throw. It's Wednesday midweek and he's starting on Saturday. What is his purpose like? Sometimes it's as small as that is, you don't think maybe someone's paying attention, but it's good to know, like, what kind of purpose do they have in the bullpen? There was a guy that came up in trade talks a couple of years back. And when I started calling around to find out information, special arm. And I was pretty much told, does not take a single bullpen seriously. Special arm. And that guy, if he's in the big leagues, he hasn't made a whole lot of noise. I don't even know where he is now. High, there you go. Super high ceiling, like top rotation type stuff. Character stunk. Yep. So you have this huge discrepancy. So what do you have? You got it's a guy with a lot of talent that's probably going to jump between AAA and the big leagues. His talent will get him there, but his makeup's not going to keep him there. So that stuff. It's really important. And when Chris explained that to me that way, I was like, man, that's dead on. And your ceiling doesn't have to be a big league. If a player's ceiling is to be a varsity baseball player, if that's their ceiling and they work their tail off to get there, like, awesome, good for you. Like, maybe you overachieve and you get to, play at the Division III level or an NAIA or D2. Maybe you don't play Division I, but you've overachieved, your talent, and it got you further than, what most would have thought. I mean, you see that all the time. Like, maybe they're not for me, but, just from being around facilities, you hear like, hey, this guy's best chance is Division III, but man, like, if I could have a team of him, we would be unbelievable.
Yeah. And I think that's valuable too, because not only in the game of baseball, now you're talking about leading on to life. Like you said, you may overachieve because of that great character in the game of baseball, but boy, you're going to overachieve in life too. And that's what it comes back to at the end of the day. Because, like they say, baseball eventually finishes at some point. It doesn't matter. I mean, you could still stay in the game through scouting, player development, et cetera, or whatever. And that, but even there, if you're that worker, that's the only way you're going to get into it on that. You don't think about being exposed. So those are two great takeaways, everybody, for sure on that one. And now I want to dive into your Scout School 360 and give them a little bit of thought process about it, why you started it, and how they could get involved.
Yeah. So it started, I just honestly, I enjoy talking baseball. I enjoy looking at just video, giving examples, telling stories about players, using them as examples. I think that's what you get when you work on the amateur side. You get to know these guys on a different level, and then you follow them through the minor leagues, and hopefully most of them get to the big leagues. So the purpose behind it was I used to get a ton of questions just on LinkedIn, just because it says what I do, and there's so many people that just want to learn. There's not a lot of information out there. When the scouting bureau went away, that took like the one main resource. So I was like, it's something I enjoy teaching the game, came from the coaching ranks. And I've been around a lot of good people over the last 12 years, and I've learned quite a bit. So it's really just kind of paying it forward. And all I did was just try to create a course that outlined the basic concepts that scouts look for. And it's a lot of what they would teach at scout school when the Bureau ran it back in the day. You know, and hopefully it grows over time and we start to expand into some other areas, but it's really just trying to outline the basic knowledge that we look for in scouting. So it's whether you want to be a scout, you want to work in scouting, you're a fan, you're a parent, you're a player. I've had 2 major league players go through, and one of them reached out, was like, man, it's like super cool, just trying to really understand like what they look for, you know, when these guys see me, you know, because he just never thought of it that way. He's a big leaguer. I mean, he's not going to think in those terms. You know, so that was really the purpose, just to educate, just to pass information along. It's there's so many good old school scouts that I've been around that have this like information database in their mind. It's like I wish some of them would just find a place to spew it, you know, and just let it go. Because, you know, and a lot of those concepts I've taken, I've kind of thrown in there. It's just stuff I've learned. I mean, it's, you know, when I was coaching, Coach Mack at Canisius, you know, I used to like learn so much from him. And he's like, you know, it's just me paying it forward. I've been at this place, learned this, and I'm passing it on to you. And that's kind of, you know, working at 2 different spots. I've been exposed to so many people. It's really just trying to pass that information along. And like I said, I love just talking about players. I think when you do this for 12 years, you almost forget to talk about anything else. Because when you're at the ballparks with your boys, what do you talk about? Oh, I saw this guy, hey, this, and you just get going on guys. You know, it's fun to do. And we have a really good, there's really a good core group in there that they just do the same thing. Just love talking baseball, talking the game, asking questions. You know, the website, scoutschool360.com. And there's a membership area where just guys just almost like talk and shop, just post videos, and you can break it down, throw your 2 cents in there, ask questions, you know. And then there's this more structured side, just total layout of the course over 11 modules that will outline everything you really need to know just to get going, just to start, just to learn the basic concepts.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, man. It's so impressive. And you're right. At the end of the day, that's exactly what it is. Pay it forward. And that's, we always talk about educating and empowering the amateur market or whatever, but that's really same idea, Mike, is paying it forward to the amateur market, because exactly right. Everybody's on there, and it's the old guy like me and the young guy like you or whatever, but it's 2 adults talking and stuff like that. And I think they're tired of that. So that's why we try to get on some good amateur players out there and their parents and tell their stories about what the journey is. And we can all remember, because, you know, and reflect back as adults, you know, how great it is. And that's cool to see that young lad out there or that young lady out there doing great things and passionate about it. Great to see a guy like yourself doing what you're doing with the scouting part of it too as well. So, you know, there you go, Dirtbags. You know, like we said right at the top of the show, Mike's been gracious enough to come on and basically share a little bit of insight in the scouting world of his years, but we want to keep it going and continue to pay it forward, as Mike just said, on a regular basis. So, you know, send scouting questions to us, send inquiries into us. Again, it's Kirk at dirtbagbaseballnation.com. I'll get them. We'll start building the mailbag, as Mike said, and we'll pass them on. If there's anything that's super relevant, for sure, I'll send it right through to Mike. I know his time is busy right now because he's got a draft coming up, and the rubber's hitting the road, as they say, quite regularly for him. So, but anyways, no, we will be on regularly with Mike, and come on and we'll be answering your questions about it, because we know that you have those questions out there, and we know that you need them and want them answered. So again, you can go to www.scoutschool360.com. It's the same thing, I believe, on your social media handles at scoutschool360. Mm-hmm. And you're on all the channels, I believe. Well, the main ones to us, I guess, the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You might be on TikTok. I'm not sure, but you know, any last minute things you want to pass on, Mike?
One more thing, because you're located in Toronto.
Yep.
And we talked about makeup, so I'm gonna take this camera. I'm gonna flip it around here, and that is one of the best makeup guys, and it's all autographed, wrote his message to me. One of the best surprises I've ever gotten in the mail. But I'll tell you what, if you're a Jays fan, you followed his career, you've seen what he's done, overcome adversity at so many different levels through the different injuries, having a great first year to all of a sudden missing time to coming back, reinventing himself in the bullpen. And that all goes back to the makeup. You knew he was going to overcome, handle adversity, continually push through, and he's done that. So, you know, as a perfect example of makeup, knowing that at 17, 18, and I'm still seeing it today. You know, I think he just turned 26 in March, you know, so again, makeup, it stays with you, like he overcome year after year.
No question. No question. And I mean, yeah, he is. You're right. 2019, he's in the starting rotation, and 2020, obviously COVID or whatever, and that makes some transition. And then, yeah, this year he comes out as one of our lefty relievers and dealing 98, for God's sakes. Like,
I watched the one game with his dad. His dad called me and he's like, "Oh, Ryan's about to go." So I put it on and we're watching. He goes, "Did you ever have 98 in your scouting report?" I go, "I should pull it up because I have it." I was like, "I'm pretty sure I did it." I'm just being honest. I didn't see it.
Watching him in 96 and then he's coming back. I'm going, dude, you're dealing. I couldn't believe it. But you're right. It comes down to desire, passion, character, and the willingness to say, hey, you know what? I want to be an MLB player. And that's it. I'm going to do what it takes. And so, again,
work off the field. Yeah. And it's really, he left Buffalo to go to the big leagues. And he goes, "I ain't going back to Buffalo." I'm like, no way I'm going back. Yep. You know, and it's just that mentality. But the work off the field, it's like people don't know that. I know that because I talk to them. It's another level, absolute another level.
And that's a great insight that we're so happy to have you on as, like you said, a regular with us, Mike, and appreciative of it to hear those great stories, because I think it's great to hear them, but it's so important for that next generation, those younger players out there and your parents to understand some of the character, the opportunities that Mike is allowed to share from time to time. Don't get expecting them all the time. That's just not part of the business. And it's the respect of the humanity is really what it comes down to. But, you know, every time you can share a story like that, it's a great added bonus for sure, Mike. There's no question about it. So thank you very much for coming on with us. It's been a blast, man. I know, good luck with the tracking. I want to talk about some of your Coomer rockers or your Jack lighters and stuff like that, but maybe on the next one we'll get talking about some of those electric players at the amateur level getting ready for the draft and stuff like that. So in the meantime, be safe until we see you again and talk again, buddy.
Sounds good.
Yeah, stay healthy with the family and everybody. Glad everybody's doing well. And we can't wait to get back and talk with you again, buddy.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Okay, Dirtbags. Again, hey, we can lead you to the water trough, so to speak, or whatever and that, but you know what? It's your choice. It's your desire. It's your character that's going to make you move forward in this baseball journey, wherever you are. So on that note, you know what time of the week it is, fellas. It's time to get up, get after it, and get dirty.